First off, I mean, I've said this before. I've said it on wax. I've gone on record saying that I think that Guilty Gear Strive, like especially at the very during launch, like Guilty Gear Strive, not even wasn't like a Guilty Gear game. I mean, that would be putting for me would have been putting it lightly. I said it was the worst Guilty Gear game. It was the worst one, and I know a lot of people like didn't like Guilty Gear Iska, and I mean, here's the thing, like Guilty Gear in some way, shape, or form, like it's like you have Guilty Gear X2, it's X2 on PS2, right? And what they ended up doing is that they made several versions of the same game over the span of years, just constantly tweaking it. It's not like they made a different game. It was
That
the
is true.
same game, just retooled. It was the same game, just retooled over and over and over and over again. They didn't actually make the jump to making a new game until way later when they did like Revelator, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and all that like later on. And I mean, and you could see the difference. It's not like, oh, well, it looks kind of different. No, it looks very different. Even Guilty Gear Iska, that game is different. It's a different game than the other Guilty Gear games. It's different than Guilty Gear Zex 2. It's different than the first Guilty Gear. It's more different than what's called than Revelator and all that came after it. Because I don't know if a lot of you probably may or may not remember this, but back in the day, they had a Guilty Gear Iska came out, and they had like you could do like 2-on-2 matches, and then you had like background foreground. You could switch to background foreground, kind of like in like the Fatal Fury games, and it was you had like attacks that because if I remember correctly, you couldn't just turn around in that game. You couldn't just like say, "Hey, I'm just going to press left and turn left." There was a specific button that you had to press, like a separate button to get you to turn around. Or if you couldn't turn around and you knew somebody was behind you, all the characters had back attacks, so they had attacks they could do behind them to hit enemies that were standing or trying to attack them from behind. So I
Mhm.
mean, you have that, and then of course you have the difference between Guilty Gear Strive and and Revelator. Revelator, I mean, like I said, you can just look at that game and realize that it's different. Like it just looks different. It looks different than like the game that came before it, Iska. And it looks way different than Guilty Gear X2, which looks different than Guilty Gear. It all looks or Guilty Gear X. It all looks different, and they all have and some of them have risks that they took that didn't pay off. Iska is probably a big example of that. They took a couple risks. I mean, that I don't know if that's necessarily one of those games that was meant to be taken that seriously. It was just in my mind, it was just a fun game to play. But Guilty Gear Strive, it goes a little bit deeper for me, other than like the core mechanics, because some of the characters, especially on launch, like felt like unfinished versions of the characters from games past. Like Axel Lowe felt like I mean, even though he had like the time stop, that's cool, but there were moves that he didn't have in Thrive that he had in legacy games that made him a really, really cool character. And it's like, oh well, we're gonna change Axel and put him in this game, and it's like, okay, at this point, I don't feel like I'm playing Axel anymore. It's like you change up Chip. I don't feel like I'm playing Chip anymore. Like there's certain characters that you change up, and they just feel like, at least in my mind, shadows of their former selves. So I don't know, man. I don't want to like keep going off on like on this rant here, but it's like what else do you want them to change? I mean, like they've already done like their due diligence in like attempting to do different things. I mean, they already took out. I mean, even in Strive, they took out the instant kills and everything. It's like what I just I always liked the legacy mechanics. I just don't see why you need to take that away. What exactly is the goal? And because it doesn't seem like it's like I don't see how that makes it a better game by getting rid of stuff like the what's called like the negative penalty and stuff like that. Like I don't see it. Maybe that's just me. I don't see how they've taken away some of the legacy stuff makes it a better game. I don't know.